So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem Raven? So let's start the series. Run. 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 Come on, said one of the two blonde 5-year-olds as they sprinted for their lives in Jump City. You may be wondering why. To begin with, they saw the recent murder of their parents by a man with an obsessive fixation on snakes. Since the blonde child reminded him too much of the Fourth Height Ninja Village, he was actually planning to torture him. The snake man landed in front of them after running for a while. What do you want? The blonde-haired boy questioned. The reptile growled, You boy, because you look like someone I wish to kill. The blonde boy said, Crap. Terra, take my medallion, I don't want you getting hurt. Sadly, the blonde girl took his medallion and stood in front of him. I won't let you hurt him. I don't think you have a choice, you are nothing, the snake replied, reaching out to push her away. At that time, her earth powers activated, but because her emotions were out of control, she lost control. Spikes sprung out of the earth, striking Naruto's shoulder and scaring Orochimaru. She turned quickly when she heard his agonizing scream. She rushed to his side to see if she could be of any assistance. He smiled simply and said, Terra, it is not your fault. Run while you can, survive. By now, Orochimaru had hissed and stood up again. He walked over and threw her against a wall. He took an unconscious NRDO in his arms, then he opened a strange gateway and stepped within. NRDO was all Terra could manage to yell before passing out. Naruto friend. Naruto yelled. Looking at the blonde, the dark-haired boy sketched, Naruto. I am taking you back. Naruto exclaimed as they parted ways. As in head, they were on the sculptures in the Valley of the End. Naruto's friend made fun of him by saying, You can try. However, the QB woke up at that very moment. These two people fought for a long time, although Naruto would easily win if he were stronger. The fox was sufficiently inspired by that to search the blonde's mindscape for anything worthwhile. When QB's chakra touched the strange, chained door it had found, memories of an other world surfaced. I can't believe it. Hopefully, in that world, he will regain those memories and grow more powerful. The fox then laughed as he performed a jutsu that most high-level demons are familiar with. The red glow that enveloped the blonde back in the real world greatly perplexed him. I didn't ask for QB's skills. He thought until everything around them disappeared and the light brightened, causing the two youngsters to cover their eyes from the brilliant flash of light. They opened their eyes after a few minutes, only to have them widen upon witnessing a busy city below. Naruto's friend smirked as he looked about at the buildings, his ego soaring. He had discovered that the building he was on was taller than the one Naruto was on. Naruto frowned at his partner. I am going to beat you and drag you back to the village. Just try it, dumbass, screamed Naruto's buddy as they sprang from the buildings and crashed into each other in the middle, using their unique taijutsu. Meanwhile, Terra was dining at Piano Pizza with the Teen Titans to celebrate her return. However, a little later, two individuals rushed down from above, making it clear that the lunch would not be quiet. As they rushed to the rails, they noticed two young boys who were marginally younger than them. Before anyone could say anything, the boy in orange rushed past the boy with dark hair. Robin noticed that the dark-haired boy's gaze changed the moment the blonde punched. The eyes were oddly crimson, with black comas in them. Raven, the Dark Titan, was not even bothering to look at the boy with the dark hair, he was entirely preoccupied on the angry blonde. His aura was somehow similar to hers. Terra was staring at the child in shock as well, there was something uncannily familiar about him. The youngster's Sharingan made him quicker than Naruto, who tried to strike his companion. He blocked the kick, deflected it, and threw the blonde into a neighboring mailbox. Then one of Naruto's friends noticed a long 2x4 piece nearby. He grabbed it up and threw it straight at the blonde, hoping to impale it. However, everyone was shocked when the mailbox exploded due to the blonde's rapid pace, and the 2x4 caught fire as he passed it. Naruto then rushed to his friend and hit him in the gut, sending him flying into a nearby parked car. RGH, cried Naruto's friend as he threw up outside the vehicle. Fireball jutsu, he exclaimed, as a huge ball of flame shot straight at the blonde. Suddenly, a brilliant light emanated from Terra's pocket. Her eyes widened at that, and she looked up at the blonde. Is he really my brother? She thought as she watched him roar like an animal as the wind put out the flame. Naruto blinked a little at this point and carried out another test. As he had once told Neji to do, he struck the Uchiha with an empty palm blow. Naruto's friend was suddenly blown back into the already damaged car by a burst of wind. Naruto's friend snarled as he leaped from the car. He hurled Naruto into the air using Lee's shadow leaf technique, then appeared beneath the blonde child, kicking him in the sides as his lion's barrage revealed itself. However, he ended it by grabbing Naruto with both hands and throwing the child back to the ground with his head down. With a horrible crunch, the Titan stared in horror as Naruto's partner looked at the boy emotionlessly. Robin went over to the boy with the black hair once she'd had enough. Why did you just kill him? Naruto's friend said impassively, simple, he was in my way. What? Was yelled angrily by all of the Titans. However, a red aura caused Raven's eyes to widen as the blonde slowly rose once again, and that anger turned to shock. His Nerdo friend growled when he saw this. This was not something he would put up with. Grabbing Nerdo by the neck, he hurried him. Why do you still get up? Why don't you just stay dead? Because I will protect you from that man and bring you back to the village, was his feeble response. A Nerdo buddy shouted in the boy's face as he charged up a Chidori. I told you, Nerdo, I am never going back. The Uchiha screamed, now, die. Chidori, and stabbed Nerdo with the lightning blade, but Nerdo moved the hand away at the last second, enabling it to just pierce his shoulder and lung. The heart had been the target of the Uchiha. Beast Boy turned pale at the sight of all that blood, and Terra looked like she was about to cry. Now that whatever he was had just killed twice, Robin was enraged. He was unaware of how enraged Starfire was that Cyborg was trying to keep her from joining the fight. So you directed the path so it hit your lung instead of your heart, not that it matters. You are at death's door and you will die slowly and painful instead of it being quick and painless. The friend of Nerdo. Nerdo said viciously, I am not going to die, and startled everyone in the audience by ripping his friend's arm from his chest. Then a red aura began to form around his body, and it began to resemble a fox. Nerdo's friend had already jumped back and was terrified to see Nerdo. The nasty mood emanating from his spouse was annoying. So much so that he and the other onlookers perceived the image of a large nine-tailed fox behind the blonde child. Beast Boy spoke the terrified words, dudes, please tell me I am not the only one seeing that. Raven swallowed, and within she was in a frenzy. We can see it. What the hell is going on with the fabled beast of the past? What are you? Yelled Nerdo's friend. And I am not going to let you run off and join that snake freakin' sound. I won't let Orochimaru have you, the Nerdo yelled, unconsciously channeling his wind powers and the Kyuubi chakra. He threw both arms out, unknowingly creating a 20-foot crater around himself. Nerdo's companion growled as he had to dodge massive fists made of that evil red chakra. As the chakra hands began bringing down fragments of the nearby buildings, he charged up another Chidori and hurried the blonde again. Nerdo narrowed his eyes and sent forth a shockwave that ripped up the ground and overturned cars as he charged up a normal Rasengan and crashed with his comrade in the center. Dude. This is a super FGHT, not just a meta-human brawl. Beast Boy exclaimed while hiding beneath some debris. He is right, and if this gets any worse, we won't have a city to protect. Cyborg said, his eyes filled with worry. However, his friend was blasted into another building before Robin could react. They all sensed a dark burst of power when the building cracked under the strain. Their eyes opened when they realized what the youngster with black hair had changed into. His complexion had turned gray, the whites of his eyes had turned black, his hair had grown and turned gray, and he had a 4-star on his nose. When her Nerdo acquaintance said, while I admit that you are special, Nerdo. Terra's eyes widened since she knew that name belonged to her twin brother. But I am more special, he cried, his eyes wide and wild red, before his back swelled to display massive webbed and clay hand-like wings and he fell down in agony. Let's finish this, he shouted, charging up his black lightning-wielding, cursed Chidori while grinning menacingly at Nerdo. They met in the middle of a purplish Rasengan that Nerdo created with his right hand despite being unable to use his left arm for some reason. NRDO. NRDO friend. The two boys were surrounded by a purple orb, and as all the residual energy focused on them, they screamed at each other. When it fell on itself, they disappeared, leaving only the destruction they had caused as proof that they had been there. What just happened? Beast Boy asked no one. Terra went to where they had disappeared and gazed at it solemnly. She wondered if her brother would ever come back. Raven was in utter awe when she saw two strong demonic beings that resembled her. Suddenly the purple ball of black energy appeared high over the Valley of the End. Its presence served as a warning to all those involved in the retrieval endeavor, including other nearby ninja. It erupted in a massive flash of light, destroying the top of the valley and sending typhoon force winds across the fire region. When Tsunade witnessed this from her office, her eyes grew enormous. Nerdo seemed unconscious when it began to rain back in the valley, and his friend gave him a weak look before heading into the forest to find strength. Getting close to Orochimaru. A few seconds later, Nerdo was back in reality and his pal had vanished when he awoke. His panicked laughter was halting. He would never be permitted to return to the village. He had failed. As he stepped into the woods, he knew he was getting close to Hidden Waterfall. I'm hoping Shikbuki can help him. Sixth Headmaster and his ninja dog, Pakin, quickly arrived on the scene. By then, the rain had stopped. This location suffered tremendously from the last strike, whatever it was, and the Scarecrow, staring sorrowfully at the state of the valley, asked, "Do you smell them?" He wondered which of the two children had done this. I'm sorry, Sixth Headmaster. The rain has wiped out their scents. I can't smell them, the dog stated sadly. The Sixth Headmaster surveyed the valley for a few more minutes until his breath froze in his throat. The head has two bands. One had a slash across the Konoha emblem, while the other looked spiderwebbed. Oh, this is so not good. What was Tsunade's reaction when she heard the report from the sixth headmaster? What the hell do you mean they are both gone? The sixth headmaster ruefully replied, it is exactly as I say. We lost the trail as the rain begun. But the odd thing was, I felt their chakra disappear for a while and then, when that giant ball of energy appeared and then exploded, I felt their chakra for a short time. Then Nerda friends disappeared as he made his way to Orochimaru. And Nerda? With regret, the sixth headmaster set the two headbands on the desk and said, it vanished soon after. I wouldn't be shocked if someone took him. The door opened to reveal Sakura, who rushed in, followed by Hinata and Ino. She noticed the headband and looked at the faces of Twanda and the sixth headmaster. They are back, right? When Hinata and Ino were shocked to see the state of the headbands and the girl began to cry, the sixth headmaster came out and remarked, no, Sakura, they are not. No. Sakura began to cry and rushed out of the room. NRDO. NRDO friend, was what they heard. We'll go get her, Ino moaned as she and Hinata rushed outdoors to comfort the girl with the pink hair. You are sure? A familiar voice asked Nerda. According to the voice Nerda thought was that of a doctor, yes Shibuki-sama. Nerdu-san is indeed fine. I am guessing it was just a case of chakra exhaustion, though the hole in the boy's shirt leaves us the question as to what happened. The sudden remark from Nerdu astonished them. I was in a fight with Nerda friend. Ah! Shibuki cried. How long have you been listening? With a nonchalant tone, Nerda sat up in bed and remarked, oh I just woke up and heard the last of it. Alright then. You care to explain why the hell you looked like absolute hell when you got to the waterfall? Shibuki issued the order. The blonde nodded and told him the whole story of retrieval mission, the Nerda friend. Nerda moaned at the end and said, and knowing the council, they would have probably used my failure as way to get me out of the village. You are afraid that your friends would have found out about the Kyuubi when that happened, Shibuki said, startling his blonde partner. How do you know? As if it were unimportant, Shibuki replied, simple, I described your battle with Suein to my sister and said that you were using demon chakra and since you were from Konoha, we put the pieces together. Oh, wait you have a sister, I didn't see her last time, Nerda replied, expressing his want to see the female. Well, she is my adopted sister, but I am sure wants to meet you. After all, you two are a lot alike. Oh how so? The blonde asked. According to a voice, I hold the seven-tailed horned beetle. Nerda noticed that the girl had short, spiky, mint green hair with an orange clip that matched the hue of her orange eyes as she entered the room. She wore a ninja outfit similar to Sakura's, which consisted fishnet shorts with a small white apron skirt over them, long white armlets, and a short sleeveless white midriff top with fishnet armor underneath. She had a forehead protector on her arm, same like Shikamaru. She also carried a strange cylindrical contraption wrapped with crimson on her back, however it was not apparent what it was intended for. Hi, I am Fu. Nice to meet ya. Nerda said, then became solemn. What kind of control do you have over your demon? Fu smiled after pretending to think. I can use all seven tails and using its power gives me super strength. Superpowers? Then I won't bother her. I have seen how Erosenin is treated by Twanda Bashan. Sounds pretty useful, he exclaimed after a moment. Do you think you could teach me how to use the Kyuubi's chakra? He asked. Fu looked at him for a moment, then nodded. I can, but remember, you have more chakra than I do and your forms may be different. Forms? Shibuki returned to the conversion and replied, yes, forms. Each Jinchuriki's demon has a distinct shape. For Fu, she has 3 forms. Her first form is a four-tail, with the greenish-red chakra. In her second incarnation, she is carrying a 7-tailed beetle, which has a similar body to hers. When several insects from all over the place combine in the mechanism on her back, the 7-tailed monster is recreated in her ultimate form, the Bijou. That is fantastic. Nerdo gave it a round of applause. It most definitely is. Let's begin. Fu remarked with a smile. A year later, Nerdu is spotted with Shibuki, Fu, and a few other residents in front of the village's waterfall entrance. This was a good enough setup for the moment. During his time with 3 tails in his initial Jinchuriki, he had total control over them. He also possessed considerable control over his second form, which was created from condensed demon chakra and did not destroy his cell as they would in a fit of wrath. This form was made up of his nearly indestructible dark blood crimson shell and a fox skull covering his face. 5 tails were used for this. Fortunately for him, it was in a waterfall training site and word did not reach Konoha, so Fu was able to beat him back to normal when he reached 6 tails by going full form 7 tails. He would lose control and neither he nor the fox would have control if he went much more than that. In Cloud, where there was a report that the Jinchuriki had total control over Nerda's demon, the waterfall commander found the answer to his predicament. After that, Shibuki tried to figure out how to get Nerdu all the tails without losing control. In the process, Nerdu picked up more common shinobi skills, which greatly improved his wind control. Fu sighed as Nerdu and Shibuki bid each other farewell with hugs. It didn't take a genius to realize that she had grown fond of the blonde, and he was unaware of it. A specific Hyuga heiress was the only one who knew that, so she decided to take a chance and kiss the poor youngster away. She smiled at his shocked appearance and said, "Come back to visit us, Nerdukuan." With a hot face, Nerda staggered out and raced away. "All right." Shibuki deadpanned, "That was unexpected," as soon as Nerda was out of sight. In response, Fu grinned and said, "Yeah, but I know he liked it." When he was halfway to Cloud, he made the decision to stop in a nearby town because he needed food anyhow. He entered the local market and strolled around, looking for various things. Because Fu had taught him that he couldn't eat ramen every single minute of every day, he began eating normally and had a little growth spurt. As he was walking, he noticed someone he knew actually, for someone's teammate. Luckily for him, there was a lot of people today, and he disappeared into the crowd as Hinata noticed him. "Nerdu," she said, her eyes wide. "What?" Where Gekiba asked in awe, then sniffed the air and followed the foxy scent of his old companion as his normal-sized dog ran past him. Shino replied, "My bugs to sense his presence." Kurenai and Hinata both opened their eyes and hurried after Kiba. Shit crap. Why in the world are they involved in this? Nerda snarled as he fled the town in the hopes of losing them, but she sensed their chakra approaching. Most likely a mission, but I can't let them discover me just yet. I need to rebuild my strength before they can see me again. I must return my Nerdo pal. The blonde was now in a panic as he made his way to a field, and he stopped to wonder if he could still summon the toads. Calling forth jutsu, he cried as a large reddish toad appeared before they both blinked at each other. I was aware. Your name did not disappear from the scroll, hence you did not die, the toad screamed. Nerda remarked, "Wow, Gamakichi, you definitely have grown. Anyway, there is no time, I need to get out of here, people are chasing after me," before his thoughts returned to reality. "Well, I could always take you to Mount Moboku, besides, you could use some sage training," the toad said gravely. "Yes, let's just leave," the toad nodded and made a few hand signals before vanishing in a cloud of smoke as Team 8 arrived on the scene. Nerdo muttered, without really thinking. "I knew about it," Kiba replied, "I knew he was too obstinate to pass away." Their red-eyed captain said, "I think we ought to let Tsunade-sama know about this. In any case, we have completed our task." "Sounds reasonable," Shino responded. As they left, Hinata was smiling. "He's alive. I'm so happy." Another year later, at 16, Nerdu was in total control of the Kyuubi's chakra. The Kyuubi claimed it wasn't finished, and the old fox wouldn't give him the knowledge he needed, but he still thought the unusual flame shape was magnificent. Kyuubi was in a new seal, disconnected from his chakra, and unable to see anything outside of Nerda's eyes, he realized. As he thought back on the training, he grimaced inwardly. He had not been nice to him because Yujido, the Jinchuriki of the two tails, had been captured by the Akatsuki before he had come. The two had reportedly been close friends, and he was letting his frustration out on the blonde, not that he cared, because he wanted to be challenged in order to get stronger. It was absurd that he had to fight his dark side since he claimed to hate Konoha and would have destroyed it if he had taken over his body. Luckily, all he had to do to win was to embrace his evil side. He didn't have to have the heart to make Konoha suffer because of what it had done to him. Then, of all things, he had to battle the Kyuubi, who had undoubtedly been a difficult opponent. Luckily, some last-minute help from his parents' chakra selves, who were restrained in the seal, put him on the verge of victory. Fortunately, he had been able to fight his parents in addition to meeting them. He flung the Uchiha on his back and hurried indoors to find any semblance of his friends, but suddenly he was staring at a huge fucking crater where Konoha had formerly been. Oh, and on his way home, he encountered the Uchiha, who were intent on destroying Konoha for whatever it was they had done to him, not that he gave a damn. Since he hadn't heard anything about it in a while, his friend Nerdu was shocked to learn that the blonde was still alive. He made the grave error of underestimating the blonde, which led to his unconsciousness. As he soared over Konoha, Nerdu noticed numerous familiar faces, including Sakura, whom he had long ago broken up with after realizing she was just a superficial girl who had beaten him too frequently. A Hyuga heiress with the pink-haired woman was among the other faces he saw. He had flown in low and positioned the Uchiha right next to the girl, which made him shriek a little because he thought she was still a little jumpy from whatever had occurred to the town, and he landed a few feet away from them and said, "There, my promise has been kept." Even though Nerdo's clothes had altered, the ninja were startled to see him standing in front of them. Speaking of new clothes, he had on blue shinobi pants and blue shoes, a crimson trench coat, black fingerless gloves with plates on the back, and some weird ANBU armor on his chest. Sakura's shocked reply was Nerdu. Before she rushed forward and offered him a shocking embrace in return. She said, tears running down her cheeks, "Thank God you're okay. I thought you were dead," before a terrified expression appeared on her face. "Why you shouldn't be here. He is available to you," Nerda said as he turned to face her. "Who?" Nerda questioned, unable to comprehend. "The alleged commander of the Akatsuki," Sakura screamed. Nerda muttered, "Oh," as he began to move toward the hamlet center, where this leader was most likely. "Why are you going to face him?" Sakura screamed. In response, Naruto said, because I can. Sakura was astonished by his direct response. What happened to you? He startled the Konoha ninja by declaring, I grew up Sakura and I had been training this whole time, just before walking off. Oh no. After being mortally wounded by pain, the supposed commander of Akatsuki, Naruto wailed out in agony. His final Jinchuriki form had failed him at the last minute, and as a result, he lost control of his emotions and fell prey to this man. You die but not before I take the fox from you, just like the rest, responded Pain. I didn't even get a chance to use Sage Mode, so this can't end this way. No. Fu. Thought Naruto in despair for the girl he had been thinking about a lot because she had kissed him. Damn it. It won't, the enormous fox replied when Naruto entered his mental world. Fox, what are you talking about? It is time for you to return to your original world. What are you talking about? This is my home world. The blonde nodded as Kyuubi said, he took you from your home world, but I'm sure you remember your first fight with Naruto friend. I've already tried to take you there, but you know the result. No, it isn't. Orochimaru is to be commended for that. I get it, but why can't I remember anything? Naruto stated. Orochimaru's experiments on you have suppressed your past memories, but you still retain them. Inexplicably, your initial power was activated. I will help you, for I know that this world is doomed. You will become my heir. Why are you helping me out with this? I will now designate you as my heir. Because you have gained my respect and I now realize that I would never leave this place. It will help you get back to your roots and your old self. You should know that you also have a twin sister. Wait, you'll learn everything when you arrive. I wish you luck. Naruto was about to ask further questions concerning the cause of the good fortune, but his world went dark. Sorry Pain, but not today. His body had ascended as a result of the Kyuubi now controlling the red chakra that was evident all around him. What are you doing to assist him, Kyuubi? Asked Pain. That's because I now appreciate him. The cubified Naruto then executed a long series of hand seals before yelling, Prophecy of the Air. Don't worry, I won't fight you in this body. Then a large set of old runes emerged on the floor beneath Naruto. Then the space became whiter and started to glow crimson. As they absorbed the Rinnegan, red hands sprang out of the glow and stabbed Pain's eyes, but that was the least of his worries since Pain was able to flee in time as the red glow spread, destroying everything it came into contact with. Now the final form is complete, the Kyuubi's voice echoed. Pain's now blue eyes stared in horror as the glow vanished along with Naruto, but the Kyuubi took his place. Naruto had no idea that Kyuubi could regenerate his chakra within the new seal, and since he had the fox's original chakra, it became a bloodline for the boy. The jutsu he had just used also allowed Kyuubi to regain his freedom. As the giant fox smiled down at the former Rinnegan user, Kyuubi let out a terrible cry that terrified the rest of Konoha, and before Pain could move, he was eaten. The fox then did something unexpected, releasing a surge of pure chakra that raised Tsunade from her coma and brought all the dead back to life. However, they were all confused when he yelled out once more, Ghost Uchiha Uchiha. For you, I'll be right over. Then he shuddered and whispered, Damn snake. He is truly to blame for everything that has gone wrong in my life. Unaware that he was being observed, he teleported to a local library using the wind and mumbled, oh well, I guess I better do some research to see how long I have been gone. I am glad Naruto friend killed him. Those experiments still haunt me. Time as two different worlds is messed up, at least Kyuubi fixed that. He had just booked a hotel for the 2 days, and he had taken to rock music and skateboarding when he wasn't trying to find out more about what had happened. At the time, it seemed to be all over the news, with some snake freak, as they called him, killing at least 30 people, including his parents, before just disappearing. He found out he had been gone for 10 years 2 days later. When Naruto saw a girl behind him, he turned back to his book, not really a fan like most of those crazy people in the city, but he thought he saw her before, and he looked to see that she was Raven from the group of heroes known as the Teen Titans. Now, he was in a bookstore, but he had already passed it because he was more interested in learning about the past. Raven noted this and said, most people usually move away when I sit here. She also felt as though she had seen him before, which was odd. Naruto said, arching an eyebrow at her, I am not most people, besides, I don't really care if I am sitting next to the dark hero herself, no big deal to me. An hour or two later, Naruto got up and opened his skateboard from a random scroll he took out of his sage cloak, and Raven's eyes widened as she read her book, staring amazed for a time. How in the world can you do that? Chakra-powered sealing scrolls. He said simply, they can't be unsealed because they only react to my chakra. Oh? According to Raven, I thought I was the only one who was interested in chakra. Naruto stared at her for a minute before realizing that he had acted impulsively and failed to conceal it. He then abruptly changed the subject by asking, I was going to get something to eat, wanna join me? Raven considered it for a moment and concluded that it would be a great way to get information out of someone, plus he didn't look all that bad. He was asking her out, but hold on. She murmured, sure. And left as though she could trust him and that his chakra was somehow similar to her own. Raven observed while they were walking to the pizza establishment that Nerda didn't seem to be pushing himself with his feet, but rather that the air itself seemed to be doing it. After mounting his board, he said, "Cool," and walked out of the bookstore. As Raven was going to ask him about it, Beast Boy and Cyborg seemed to have seen them. The metal guy asked, "Who's that person with Raven, BB?" "I don't know." "Come on, let's check," said Beast Boy as they walked over to them. "Hey, Ray. Who is your pal?" "Is he your?" Cyborg interrupted Beast Boy before he could say anything that would kill him. When Nerd saw that Raven had neglected to ask his name, he said, "Name's Nerdo, nice to meet ya." "Dude, you're Japanese," Cyborg stated. "So, what does your name mean?" A big question mark hung over Beast Boy's head as he asked. "Bored," Nerdo said, spiraling maelstrom. Raven arched an eyebrow but said nothing. "Well, that's different. What are you doing with Raven, anyway?" Cyborg smiled. The blonde added, "My treat. Would you like to go with us as we go to that pizza business over there for some food?" The place looked rather familiar. For a minute, Beast Boy and Cyborg were stunned. They didn't think Raven would accept such a thing, but when they got there, they accepted the free lunch and started placing their orders. According to Cyborg, Miatsa pizza. Tofu pizza. BB. "Please, just a cheese pizza," Raven pleaded. "It says we can make any kind of pizza here, right?" Nerdu asked the waitress. "Yes, sir." "So, do you have any ramen?" Nerdu and Cyborg exchanged a goofy smirk that Beast Boy recognized. Everyone was now confused and had question marks above their heads. "Ah yeah, but we only have miso ramen." "Excellent." When he handed her the menu, Nerdu smiled widely and added, "Please, I'll have 2 miso ramen pizzas." She just nodded. "Dude. I didn't think that was feasible," Beast Boy remarked. "That is definitely true," Cyborg said, rubbing his head. They conversed lightly until their lunch arrived, during which Nerda felt that someone was observing them but refrained from commenting since they weren't attacking. Raven only said, "Odd." When their dinner finally arrived, they began to eat. With the help of Brother Blood, Cheshire, and Killer Moth, Gizmo and Jinx assaulted Raven and the other two this time. Before he could finish the last piece, a big, red-haired teenager assaulted them, knocking BB and Sai away with his fists before taking his final piece of pizza. Nerdu was eating it like it was the greatest thing since sliced cheese. As he handed Nerdu the rear of the structure, the big man said loudly to himself, "When the giants are apart, take them out. Why hadn't we considered that earlier?" "I don't know, Mammoth," which is why Gizmo said this as he hovered over the massive adolescent. He then assaulted Raven with Jinx, flung Beast Boy against a wall with Mammoth's assistance, and used the man's own parts against Cyborg. "That was way too easy," Jinx said to them before Nerd gave them all a strong desire to kill. The others dropped to their knees and gasped for air, while Gizmo and Jinx fell to the ground. "You fools made 3 mistakes," Nerda remarked as he came out of the hole he had made when he went inside. 1. You people attacked my new friends. Second of all, you ruined my new favorite eatery." He appeared extremely enraged at the moment, with his cubified eyes and murderous intent on the villains. "The damn Neanderthal ate my ramen pizza after 3 years of no ramen. And you would be?" Brother Blood asked as the oppressive feeling faded and Nerda's blue eyes returned. He was going to kick butt, and if he was going to kick bad guy butt, he needed a different identity, just in case. Nerda smiled, recalling the name on his cloak, and whispered, "Kaze no Kitsune." Gimzo screamed, "I don't care what this but Muncher's name is." After giving the small monster a fierce look, Brother Blood turned back to Nerdu and said, "I assume that's Japanese, and if so, you're calling yourself the Wind Fox?" With a smile and a strange combat stance, Nerdu replied, "Yeah." The sky was much darker now, and the radio and piano pizza was playing White Rabbit by Egypt Central, and Raven felt a lot of chakra in the air and spoke the one thing everyone was thinking, "Oh shit. I know this is excessive, but you annoyed me." Nerda laughed and closed his eyes in response. When he opened them, yellow eyes with a rectangular pupil were visible. "What?" Mammoth started to say something, but stopped when he noticed that the sky had darkened and that a tornado had formed around the blonde. "What on earth?" asked a frightened Jinx. With a sly smile, Nerda remarked, "Pure elemental manipulation." Since he didn't yet know who worked here, he would have to be more restrained rather than murder them. He lifted into the air, disappeared, then resurfaced before the big teenager, slamming his leg into his stomach and sent him hurtling into the air. Mammoth was hauled around till he was tossed out and struck a building when Nerdy used the tornado technique to grab him. "What a jerk you are." When Gizmo realized what had happened, he yelled, ran at the blonde on his 4 metal legs, and shot rockets at him just to be safe. Nerd rolled his eyes and made a clone, which jumped into the air and hovered below Gizmo, torturing the tiny terror. The original ran at the little fry, easily avoiding the missiles by hopping on them and spinning the air around his hand until it was a disc of chakra and wind. Buzzsaw time, the clone chuckled as he threw it, then grabbed the small man and punched him into a building wall. The wind blade sliced through all 4 legs of Gizmo's knapsack, then tore it in 2. With a bored expression, the blonde effortlessly sidestepped or stopped their attack before grinning, kicking Jinx away, and throwing Cheshire into the air before vanishing and then resurfacing in front of the girl while gesturing with his hands. As Naruto was painfully sliding down the wall, Jinx and Cheshire ran past him and attacked him as he hit the ground. He silently thanked Killer Bee for teaching him how to use lightning manipulation, but before he could do so, Mammoth punched him out of the air, sending the blonde crashing to the ground and rolling out of Mammoth's fist's path. Wind style, lion's roar, it said. A giant lion made out of the wind appeared before Naruto, and as he roared, so did it, and it shot the girl quite a ways down the street. Naruto kicked the muscular adolescent away from him, raising his palm in the air. Lightning style, riding the lightning. Incredibly, the blonde super teen seemed to grab a huge lightning bolt that seemed to crash down on him, and as he rode it, the bolt curved upwards. The large adolescent glanced up in amazement. Whoa! Dude, Beast Boy screamed as he gazed at Naruto in wonder. At this point, Robin and Starfire came with the other 3 titans. As Starfire gaped in amazement, Robin ripped his eyes from the scene and cried out, "What the hell is going on?" "Oh, before they ambushed us, we were dining at Piano Pizza, but they are being thrashed because of Raven's new badass pal," Cyborg said excitedly as he saw Nerd ride the lightning. Nerdu began to swirl as Brother Blood opened fire with his red sonic cannon. TCH, let's see how much a metalhead enjoys a lightning bolt. He aimed the mass of electricity toward Brother Blood before his back flipped off as the lightning blew into him and sent him flying. In an attempt to clock Nerdu in the face, Johnny Rancid leaped a building. Keyword, tried. Nerdu cocked his head to the right as he grabbed the man and threw him away, in the same direction as Blood. Nerdu smirked and eyed the motorcycle, liking it. As the bike hit the ground, Nerdu pulled a scroll from his sage cloak and made the paper wrap around the bike before it went up in smoke, shocking many. When he landed again, he saw Mammoth charging at him. With quick thinking, he turned to face the still stationary and inactive tornado and called it to him. Just as Mammoth was on top of him, he pushed out and slammed it into the large teen's stomach, causing it to stoop and wrap itself around his fist, creating a tiny but incredibly powerful tornado on it. The earth shook slightly before erupting all around them as Mammoth twirled in place before being hurled into the air at high velocities. Just as Jinx was about to attack him, he smiled and flung away the light post. He thought to himself, Sage mode is running out. Oh well, might as well finish this, as a pink beam hit a nearby light post and began to fall on him. He managed to catch it, but the weight made his knees weaken. He calmly responded, "Wind style, great breakthrough." Jinx was ejected to wherever Mammoth had made landfall, as a stunned Jinx was lifted into the air as if she were weightless. All this while, Killer Moth had been perspiring and observing, but he quickly dismissed the concern since, after all, he had the size advantage. A large mutant moth was on his side. Nerdu was caught off guard when a yellow energy whipped around his wrist. "What the what?" With his eyes widening at the massive moth, he exclaimed, "and how did I not notice that, knowing that his sage mode was now fading?" "Ha ha. I'm going to beat you, Killer Moth." "You mean Killer Moth? Are you familiar with killer bees?" Nerdu asked nonchalantly. "Oh well, you don't seem like the type to rap anyway, though I have a feeling your rapping would be bad as well," Nerdu remarked as a small blue glowing sphere appeared in his raised palm. The Titans immediately recognized that strike, and their eyes grew wide. "Dude. Does that person know how to do that?" "It would seem so," Robin said, astonished and a little afraid. "Wait, could he be the same guy?" Raven exclaimed. Starfire had stars in her eyes, but no one saw her. Cyborg remarked, "I doubt it, the kid was either 12 or 13, this guy looks to be around 16. Killer Moth and the Titans were shocked when Nerdu said, "Now, let's spin out of control, shall we?" He shouted, "Kazecho Odama Rasengan," as the tiny orb seemed to enlarge and a wind started to gather around it. The Killer Moth was still on its back when it shrieked and spun around in a massive tornado before taking flight. He only had to jump a few feet to make contact, and the result was instantaneous. "Curse you!" he screamed. The sound of someone yakking their lunch outside could also be heard in the distance. Nerdu said, "Well, that was easy." He turned to face the Titan, who was staring at him, when Sage Mode finished. "What? Is there anything on my face?" The Titans continued to stare at him as his eyes transformed from toad-like to their usual blue, but before they could say anything, Nerdu narrowed his eye and hurled a kunai toward the top of a building, causing a Slade bot to twitch and fall to the ground. A bot for Slade, there was a ticking sound before Robin's demeanor turned serious, and he blinked before answering. Nerdu stated to no one in particular, "Alright, so why is there a robot that is exploding after me?" After staring at it for a while, Robin turned to face Nerdu, smiled, shook his hand, and said, "Hello, my name is Robin. Thanks for helping my teammates. There most likely would have been more collateral harm if you hadn't been present." "Oh, not much collateral damage. Alright, my name is Nerdu Azuamki." Nerdu arched an eyebrow, surveying the area, which seemed to be in ruins with only a few buildings damaged. "It must be a new record for me. Friend who saved my friends, hello." A girl with orange complexion yelled as she rushed to give him a hug that broke his bones. "Oxygen is what I need." Before she released him, with an embarrassed expression on her face, Nerdu managed to get away. "My name is Starfire, and I'm sorry, new friend," she said with a smile. Nice to meet you, Naruto smiled back at the others and said, okay, I already know the Green Bean's name, along with Cyborg and Ravens, so that makes the whole Teen Titans team here. Robin said, yep. Now, thank you for your assistance, but why are you here? Yes. Beast Boy cut him off before he could change the topic, exclaiming, dude, those wind powers, especially that lightning power, were fantastic. Thanks. Anyway, I'm here to find my twin sister, Naruto remarked. I haven't been here in about 10 years because of that snake freak. Snake freak, says Robin, what happened? He said I looked like an enemy of his and he took me back to his world and did experiments on me, turning me back into a baby. 15 years later I am transported back to this world where it happened 10 years ago, replied Naruto. A terrified cyborg said, whoa. He reportedly killed at least 30 people. Where did he end up? Even Raven was uncomfortable when he said, Orochimaru had obtained the gift of immortality but had to transfer bodies every 3 years. My parents were 2 of those people. His own student, Naruto's companion, assassinated him. And he made an unsuccessful attempt to obtain his student's body. I understand. I'll have to let Batman know so he won't be looking for him. Regardless, Robin remarked, there aren't many around here. That name is given to me by the people who took care of me, my real last name is Markov, Naruto laughed. Markov! The Titans yelled. Naruto put his pinky finger in his ear to try to restore his hearing, saying, I see you know of that name. Dude. I was unaware that Terra had a brother, Beast Boy remarked. Robin answered, yeah, I mean she never said anything about it. Let me guess, she was too busy trying to control her powers. Please, tell me where she is, replied Naruto. The giants nodded and looked at each other. Come with us. That never sounded good, and BB said it with a trace of melancholy. After getting inside the T-car, they drove off. While journeying, they explained what had happened in Terra's fate. When they asked if he wanted to be a Titan with them, he just nodded, thinking that if Slade ever came back, he had to exact retribution. They soon came and went into the cave where she was. He eventually saw her statue-like form and stood in front of her for a minute before he fell to his knees. He was crying a little too. I was too late. He looked at the plaque that said, Terra is a Teen Titans and a good friend. The Titans, unable to save Terra, watch in grief. Naruto wouldn't be crying if it were the case. Raven put a hand on his shoulder in an attempt to comfort him, much to the surprise of the others. Starfire, being herself, did the same. Thanks, he murmured with a smile, and then he took one of Terra's hands, which ironically had his medallion. He had no way of knowing, but then he saw a flash of light. Her hands were glistening with medallions. In another flash of blue and yellow light, she was back to normal. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, she sensed that someone was holding her hand and saw the Titan's shocked looks. Looking down, she saw a man with blonde hair and a scarlet trench coat. The next thing he said told her who it was. I guess giving you my medallion for safekeeping was a good thing or you would not be here right now. She said in a startled tone, Naruto. Yeah, it is me. Then she jumped down to give him a massive to make sure he was real. I thought I lost you to that snake freak. Heh, we won't have to worry about that team anymore. What? Terra asked, not understanding the word. He cried out to Gamabunta as they came out of the cave, let's get back to the tower. Gamabunta was instantly thrashed. I thought you were dead. What happened? Yelled the massive toad. I tell all of you in a bit, but could you take me and my new friends and their car to that big T in the distance? Sure kid, but you better tell me what happened, he said as he hopped to the enormous T while carrying the shocked teenagers and their car on his back. As soon as they arrived at the tower, Gamabunta invited everyone to disembark, adding, okay Naruto, explain. Naruto cautioned, okay, but it will be a long story. The huge toad bowed his head in agreement, and the blonde looked at his sister and the Titans before beginning his story. When that snake freak, Orochimaru, took me to his world, he did experiments on me just to hear me scream in pain. I am not all sure what he did to me, but what I do know is that he turned me back into a baby. What? How is that possible? Asked Robin. Naruto nodded and continued, the hell if I know, he did it. Anyway, a man named the Fourth Hide Ninja Village found me when he was sent to raid one of Orochimaru's bases and took me in it for a bit, but when the village was under attack by the Kyuubi no Kitsune, he couldn't defeat it, so he sealed the fox in me. Given that his fate was identical to hers, Raven displayed a great deal of emotion at this point. That his vibe felt familiar makes sense. Why would a multi-tailed fox be drawn to someone? Starfire wondered. Anyway, he died and my life went to shit because the villagers of Konoha though I was the fox and wanted to kill me when I was younger. But I did not attack them at all, and when I became a ninja, I slowly gained some of their respect. However, everything went downhill when my team took the Chunin exams. Orochimaru ambushed us and put the curse mark on my teammate, Naruto friend, the same person who will kill the man. Dude, that is all messed up, growled Beast Boy. True, in my world, it is far harsher than this one. Before going any farther, Robin was extremely pale, and the teenagers all had sickly expressions. Could he have ended up like that if Bruce hadn't taken him in? Anyway, after the Chunin exams, he tried to leave the village so that he could gain power from Orochimaru since he felt that he deserved power, so that he killed his older brother for killing their entire clan. Well, my team went out to get him, but thanks to the Sound 4, we had to split up until it was just me and Nerda friend in a place called the Valley of the End. There we fought, but the fox decided to mess with us and bring us to this world where we fought for a bit until we used our darkest power to power up our greatest attacks, sending us back. Holy crap! That was you too, said Cyborg. You saw us? Yeah, we were some of the people watching and were about to jump in before you brought the field to Super. Robin responded. The nonchalant comment from Nerdu was, oh, it's no surprise that you and that pizza place looked familiar. Wait, I can't believe you didn't recognize any of this before. Tara replied. For a moment, the girl frowned when Nerdu stated, I didn't regain my memory at the time. Tara answered, but it gave you your powers back, that's a good thing, right? Nerdu laughed and replied, oh yeah. Because of that, I barely survived, and when the battle was over, I was knocked out for a few moments. That gave Nerdu friend enough time to leave while he could. Now, due to my statues back in the village, I did not think that they would keep me in the village, so I left to train on my own. Throughout the years, I have gotten stronger, and a few days ago, I fought Nerdu friend and won. But when I returned to the village, I found it under attack, most of it was a crater. Raven gave a blink. A crater? How is that possible? Well, it was basically one guy who did it. He was the leader of a group called the Akatsuki, who were finding people like me so they could take out Demon and control the world. Anyway, he had an old power that nobody today has. He taunted me and I fell for it, even with all the training I had, I lost. However, the QB came to my rescue, he made his heir and sent me here, and well, you know the rest. I see, cried Gamabunta. I am glad you are alive, boy. In fact, if you ever need our help, don't hesitate to ask. You are our summoner after all. Thanks, Bunta. Nerdo said, and the giant toad nodded before disappearing into the cloud. So, what now? I want you to stay with us, of course. Tara said to her twin. The male blonde was given a communicator by Robin, who grinned and said, yeah, I don't see the problem with that. Welcome to the Titans. Raven remarked, Nerdu, you said the QB made you his heir, correct? But the jutsu he used to make me said heir was called the prophecy of the heir, Nerdu retorted as if it were nothing. Mooting, Raven said, I was afraid of that. What do you mean? It means that my father is coming back to fulfill it, Raven replied. What? Cried all the Titans, except Tara, in fear. Dude, I thought you totally kicked his butt and everything, screamed Beast Boy. Yeah, Cyborg complained, I can't take another round of that crap. I only sealed him away again. Raven responded, however, we won't have to deal with him, Nerda however, will. When I am not sure, but it won't be for a while. Good, Robin remarked solemnly, that gives us time to prepare. Starfire yelled out, friend Nerdo? Yeah. How did the blue star bolt work? Starfire asked, completely off subject. A flash of blue stars? She means the swirling sphere you created to blast away Killer Moth and his giant moth. Cyborg responded. You mean the Rasengan, I see. Nerda said, this is just violently swirling chakra, as he formed a typical one. Interesting, the Tamaranian let out a startled cry. So? Said Beast Boy, disrupting, can you show us those very awesome ninja moves? Normally, no. Nerdu grinned in response. But I can sense that you all are using chakra already in your powers, I guess so, but not today. Fantastic. The green bean cheered. Now let's go back to the prophecy. I believe you are your father, and I am going to fight you. Trigon, my father, is a malevolent demon who aspires to take over the planet. However, you used to possess a fox demon that once challenged him. After their combat ended in a draw, they agreed that QB's descendant would challenge my father for the title of genuine demon king. Oh great. Nerdu deadpanned. I guess it's not that bad, but I am fighting some old-ass battle. At least I get to hang around with you guys before it occurs. Cyborg smiled and replied, that's true. Now, who wants waffles? When Nerdu first tried pancakes, waffles, and French toast, he didn't really care to try them in the ninja world, but he soon grew to like them. It was quite the adventure, the breakfast dinner. The green bean claimed that it was healthy and that it was fake meat. The green shapeshifter pouted as Nerdu said, anything good for you tastes bad, and then he and the others all laughed. Hell, he nearly choked after tasting the tofu that Beast Boy was offering. Here Nerdu, I wish for you to try my homeworld's desert, said Starfire with a smile. No. Everyone except Tara screamed at the blonde, but it was too late because he had already taken the piece off. His eyes widened and he suddenly stopped moving. Dude, do you think he's okay? Beast Boy asked his metal friend. Honestly, I am not sure. This is really fantastic, suddenly, Naruto yelled, frightening the living daylights out of everyone, even better than ramen. It tasted like ramen, he had to admit, but it was also something more, and many people in Konoha would be startled by how good it was. I'm so glad you like it. Starfire exclaimed. After eating the remainder, Naruto watched Beast Boy and Cyborg play a video game about a ninja, which he was sure he could win, but he had to watch because they didn't have a third controller at the time, and he respected Raven's decision to not be bothered by the two game enthusiasts he was, even though his sister seemed to just sit and watch them. When the other Titans told their stories after his, he was shocked to hear that Starfire was from outer space, but he didn't mind either. She was talking to Robin as he was leaving the room, and he could tell she liked the boy wonder, which made him a little sad. Starfire was a pretty girl, and he didn't mind that she had orange skin. Robin, would you like to spend some time with me in the mall of shopping? Sorry Star, but I think I have a lead on Slade, Robin remarked before heading out of the room. Naruto frowned and remarked, that boy needs to pay more attention to his friend. She saw that Starfire had a forlorn expression on her face, which he didn't like, while the other Titans appeared unfazed and continued with their activities. Hey Starfire. He could still be a good friend to her even if she wasn't interested in him, and now was the perfect chance to meet her. The alien girl grew lively at that point and smiled at the blonde ninja. Yes, friend Naruto? He continued, if you want, I can accompany you to this shopping center. Starfire's eyes were full of stars as she cheered and dragged the boy out of the room. Did he simply offer to hang out with Starfire? Raven inquired, looking up from her book. Yeah, a gobsmacked Beast Boy replied. In a nervous voice, Cyborg said, he just doomed himself to an entire day with that girl there. Did Terra inquire, is she really that awful? With a moan, Raven answered, you have no idea. With a menacing grin, Terra continued, you know, I think there was a reason he did that. Oh? What? Asked the two gamers. Raven anxiously asked, am I even interested in knowing? Hee hee, my brother has a thing for her, Terra smiled. The two men, who had never thought of the girl in that way and who like her more as a sister than anything else, exchanged perplexed glances before bursting into uncontrollable laughter. Hey, if Robin doesn't get his head out of his ass, he just might lose her to him. Cyborg grinned. Yes, but it seems that Naruto is more interested in her than he is. That was Beast Boy who said that. Raven said in her usual tone as she got to her feet, this should be interesting. BB asked, where are you heading? Want to accompany me on an espionage mission? Raven asked. The two children looked at each other in awe before saying, sure. Terra let out a sigh before changing into their civilian attire, determined not to miss this. Robin was working on his computer in his room, which had a monitor that displayed the front entrance of the tower, when he realized that Starfire was almost dragging their new friend to the mall. Robin grinned and said, just take care of her, Naruto. He couldn't blame the blonde for liking the alien girl, but if Naruto ever hurt her, there would be hell to pay, ninja or not. He was usually too busy to date the blonde, so he silently gave her his okay. When they arrived at the mall, he was surprised by its enormity. Friend Naruto, have you never been to the mall of shopping? Starfire asked. Naruto looked about the room and said, no, not at all. I went to the library mostly to learn more about its history and to see what I had missed. The alien girl smiled, as though he was as excited about Earth as she was. Alright, let's enjoy ourselves. When he noticed that they were dressed as heroes, he said, yeah, what would you like to do first? Maybe I should get some civvies. Why do you require the civilians' clothing, friend Naruto? Some people only want to save the world and live in peace, whereas most heroes have a secret identity that allows them to go somewhere without anyone knowing who they are. Starfire replied, oh, I get it. Then we go to the apparel shops. Being a ninja, Naruto was able to handle the risks of shopping with a female. Once they acquired a big bag of clothes, Naruto would conceal them by putting them away and sealing them in a single scroll, which enthralled the girl. When they were done shopping, they came out of a random store dressed in new clothes. Naruto was dressed in blue jeans, black Reebok sneakers, and a black short-sleeved shirt that said, relax, I am a ninja. Starfire, on the other hand, was dressed in purple short shorts, comfortable tennis shoes, and a purple shirt. He remarked that she looked very attractive in it, and she just smiled. She liked the boy wonder, but she wouldn't wait forever for him, and she must admit that he looked good in those clothes, and the black shirt really showed off his muscles. Starfire believed she could give him a chance if he ever asked her out, because Robin was always too busy for her and the other boys in the tower never wanted to go shopping with her. They were unable to hide from a ninja, but Nerd cut his eyes and smiled at 4 people who were trying to hide next to them, saying, seems we are being watched by our friends. I see, Starfire responded with a smile. I believe they are only watching out for us. You want to perform for them? Yeah. Nerd smiled. What kind? Nerda smiled and asked, "How is your singing voice?" as he glanced at the area beside them. Starfire blinked, then smiled, "I'm all right. Are you going to sing as well?" Of course. However, Nerda smiled and led her into the karaoke bar, emphasizing that ladies came first. Dude, this is strange. Shopping doesn't appear to be a problem for him, Beast Boy said, dressed in blue trousers, sneakers, and a purple shirt. Cyborg had put him in a hologram, and his skin was normal. In a hologram that made him look like Victor Stone, the cyborg said, "Well, Terra did say he likes Starfire, so maybe he is just putting up with it for now." Raven said, "I am sensing that he likes the girl, still odd choice for someone like him." The woman was wearing black pants and a blue hoodie that covered her face. "Oh? We're jealous. Do you want my brother, Raven?" asked Terra, who was only wearing her usual attire. She was flushing, even if they couldn't see it. "No." Raven deadpanned. "Guys, let's see what they're doing." They're going to the karaoke bar. Beast Boy let out a sudden, delighted cry. She was starting to like this boy, so maybe he would ask her out soon, and she would say yes. Starfire smiled, she thought his singing voice was great, and the song kind of spoke to her. Despite having strong vocals, Nerd and Starfire's songs seemed to suggest that they were drawn to each other, and the giants in attendance all stared in shock. "I guess we'd better go, gentlemen." The others nodded when Cyborg said, "You know, just in case they do have a thing for each, we don't mess it up or anything." Raven appeared a little disappointed that she had missed her opportunity, but maybe it was best because she had to keep her feelings to herself most of the time and didn't want to offend the blonde if she said something direct. Terra smiled, pleased that her brother had found someone, but if she could just get back with Beast Boy, that would be fantastic. After spending the rest of their time in the mall just walking about and enjoying each other's company, Nerda said, "Man, time sure flies by when you are having fun." With a smile, Starfire said, "It sure does." Nerdu put on a thoughtful expression and grinned, saying, "I know a terrific way to get back. Want to try it?" Obviously, Starfire clapped her hands. Nerda nodded and his skateboard began to hover as seals glowed on it as he took it out. The alien woman smiled and leaped on as well, clinging to Nerda tightly with her breast against his back as he continued, "Now hold on tight." "Oh no. Okay, Nerdu, calm down. A pervert is not what you are." Unaware that Starfire blushed a little too when she massaged his muscles, Nerda reddened a little and guided the board to the top of a nearby power line. "Alright, this is really easy. Do you recall my lightning jutsu ride?" "Yes." "Well, this is similar, but we are using the power line instead," Starfire exclaimed happily into the night. He accomplished this by applying chakra to the board, causing the wheels to latch on the power line and accelerate rapidly. He was aware that it would cause a little disruption to everyone's electricity, but it was worthwhile, and as they got closer to the tower, he noticed that all of the buildings were being consumed by the energy. So much for that, then. As they soared through the city to the tower, they resembled a bolt of electricity. When they ran out of board at the end of the line, Nerda used his wind powers to fly them to the top of the tower. He then let out a sonic boom and spun around the tower multiple times, which made Starfire laugh. Besides, they smiled at each other. "That was indeed fun, friend Nerdo," Starfire said, praising her new buddy and crush. Nerda chuckled and said, "Yeah, it was, not I need a new board. Well, we better get inside before they start to wonder where I took you." With a sense of nervousness, Starfire said, "Wait, may we just sit outside for a moment?" Starfire leaned slowly on the boy and rested her head on his shoulder as Nerda nodded and grinned softly before they perched on the edge of the tower and gazed out at the full moon glistening ocean. This kind of interaction surprised Nerd a little at first, but he gradually put his arm around the extraterrestrial girl's waist and enjoyed the evening. As they thought about the chance that this might work, they both grinned. It was morning again, and everything was back to normal. "Beast Boy. I'm going to kill you." Well, nearly normal. Luckily, BB had replaced Nerd Shuriken and Kunai with rubber ones, and Beast Boy grinned as he hurried down the hallway while rubber blades were thrown at him. Beast Boy finally used common sense and woke the blonde by soaking Nerdu in extremely cold water. Terra was watching her brother from her spot in the hallway when she noticed that he was making use of his skills, and she couldn't help but laugh. Nerdu was completely drenched and appeared to be mocking. Beast Boy would win a prank war if he wanted to. Wind and water style, freezing heart. Nerda grinned as he increased the wind around him, slowing Beast Boy's pace and causing the water to run out of him, but he was far from done. It was hilarious to watch as all of the water shot off Nerdu and mixed with his wind before flying over to the green bean, where it made contact and soaked the green teen before freezing him in place. Beast Boy's eyes were filled with dread, and his face was still sporting that silly smile. "I was the prank king in my village. What should I do with you, my green friend?" Nerdu said, approaching the frozen shapeshifter with an evil smile. "I may have grown up some in my travels in my world, I never lost my pranking side." Nerdu, who had been observing, merely shook his head, but BB was in for it now. "Moom. Moom. What is that? You put your underwear in the lighting pole and string your frozen ass up on the roof?" "Moom. Alright, you got a good deal. Cyborg was a little too happy and began to sweat before he realized what Nerda had said. Oh, it's going to be alright. As he was leaving, Sai said something to let the others know so they could watch too. Before heading up to the roof to observe, Tara asked herself, why do I feel that this will happen a lot in the future, after grinning and sighing. Beast Boy cried out. He just hung there, unmoving, while his underwear was pulled out of the ice in a wedgie and hanged from the lightning rod of the tower. Sorry Beast Boy, but you have to learn that you pranked the prank master, he's going to prank back. Nerda cracked a grin. If you weren't Starfire, you couldn't help but laugh as Robin gawked and Cyborg laughed so hard he was having breathing problems. Friend Raven, why is friend Nerda giving the wedgie to friend Beast Boy? Raven said, nodding, do you recall Beast Boy's penchant for pulling practical jokes? Well, he pranked Nerdo and this is the result, he said, grinning mischievously. But what was the joke? Beast Boy splashed a few buckets of water on him while he was asleep. However, Nerda used the water against him, as you can see. Tara grinned as well, but she felt bad for the green bean. Finally, Starfire said, oh, I see. At that moment, Robin's communicator called, and he smiled slightly upon recognizing the caller before telling them to assemble in the common area. Now be a good kid, Nerda said as he turned back to the Beast Man. So, who was calling? Cyborg asked. An old friend of mine. Robin worked on the main computer before someone came on the enormous screen. Kid Flash, how are you? Read the lightning bolt emblem on the screen. The boy, wearing a red and yellow hero suit, was roughly their age. I'm fantastic. The crew divided up to have fun, and I was given the day off, although I'm not even sure what Superboy's definition of fun is. Robin raised an eyebrow. Young Justice? How is the other Robin doing, then? Meh, he is like you, but more fun. Kid Flash teased. Robin's eye flickered. So, what were you hoping for? Oh, I am coming to visit you guys, cried Kid Flash as he looked up. Who is the person atop the tower? Oh, that's Beast Boy. He attempted to play tricks on the new man. Oh man, Beast Boy must be out of his league. Kid Flash said, blinking before bursting into laughter. Will you let me in, then? After opening the door and turning off the television, Robin laughed and said, yeah. Shortly after, Kid Flash came into the room. Kid Flash said with a big smile, yo. What will we do today, then? Oh, I see. I must meet this new guy who played a practical joke on Beast Boy. Kid Flash, who was often anxious, pointed to the blonde seated on the couch and stated, he is in this room, the blonde one. Robin shook his head. Kid Flash approached the blonde and held out a hand, saying, dude, I saw what he looks like as the Green Bin Foz and I gotta say, it is awesome. Robin has told me about his antics. With a sly smile, Nerda said, thanks. I can see the mischief in your eyes and I will tell you right now, you prank me, you might get something worse than what Beast Boy got. Well, I have never seen you, but I have heard of you, Kid Flash remarked hesitantly. I think I'll take your word for it. This was reinforced when he turned to face the others and saw Cyborg shaking his head. He then glanced at Starfire, Raven, and Tara before hurrying over to Tara and grinning mischievously. Would you like to blow my mind? Though she still carried feelings for Beast Boy and understood that he was different from this guy just now, Tara's eyebrows twitched as she blushed. It makes sense that Robin's old friend would be more vivacious than the boy wonder and a true flirt. Sorry, but I like someone else. In a voice that scared the redhead, Nerdu put a hand on Kid Flash's shoulder and said, besides, and Kid Flash understood the concealed danger and instinctively retreated, not because of the amazing Ki Nerdu was giving off, which only he could detect. She is my twin sister. Kid Flash turned to face Raven, who spoke before him, and murmured, oh okay then. In a monotone, Raven said, don't even think about it. Robin was actually smiling at the time. The words, hey there hottie, caused both Nerdo and Robin's eyes to twitch as Kid Flash's head hung before he shot for Starfire. Name's Kid Flash. Nerdu was envious because he was starting to feel something for the girl, and Robin found it annoying and no longer humorous. Hello there, Flash Kid. Unaware that she was being flirted with, Starfire said, it's nice to meet you. Kid Flash's face leaped at that, forgetting what Robin had informed him about the redhead's odd speaking style. So, I am pleased I encountered a gorgeous young mind like you. So, do you guys have anything to eat? He added, adopting the nice guy pose. The alien female was still not grasping Nerda's sensuality. I am starving because I traveled a long distance and expended a lot of energy. Robin answered. Robin trembled in response, sure, I am sure we can make something, knowing how much Kid Flash had eaten. Starfire excitedly said, oh. It would be my pleasure to cook. I will prepare meals from both Earth and my home planet. Well, how about we make it a competition? Nerdu asked. What we get to do afterward is decided by whoever can eat the most. With a sly smile, Kid Flash said, that is fine with me, but I am going to win. Nerdu replied nonchalantly, we'll see. She didn't really understand what was going on, but Starfire didn't care either. Her new friends would eat her food. Wonderful, and proceeded to the kitchen to begin. Do you think we could alert them to what she's cooking? Leaning over to rejoin Raven, Robin, and Cyborg, the metal guy asked. Raven and Robin looked at each other and whispered, no. Excellent, Cyborg grinned as he spoke. Beast Boy thought enough during all the cooking to transform into a larger beast before emerging from the chakra-enhanced ice prison. He was then informed about the competition and, even though they were consuming Starfire's meal, he was smiling and wondering who would win. In order to pass the time, Beast Boy challenged Naruto and Kid Flash in video games. For some reason, the two were very competitive, especially Naruto. Beast Boy soon had brilliant eyes and was observing the strange competition to eat food. The first dish that Starfire had made, which must have been from her home planet because it was moving as if it were alive, attracted the attention of the two males nearby. The lads swallowed and looked at each other, suddenly regretting this. Come on now. Cyborg exclaimed, a bit too happily. Starfire prepared this for the two of you, are you just going to waste it all? Kid Flash was surprised when Naruto yelled at the alien female, who sighed and looked at him anxiously. He didn't want this girl to be upset, so he immediately jumped in. He tucked in too, not to be outdone by the blonde, and found the food to be good, if not as good as Megan's smoldering cookies, but almost as good as ramen for Naruto. Ironically, it was the next course. 15 bowls of ramen were served to each boy, and when Naruto tasted it, he was literally crying, it was that amazing. Kid Flash thought it was okay. To the joy of the alien female, Robin, Raven, Beast Boy, and Cyborg were startled as the two males ate everything that Starfire had managed to make. Robin thought Kid Flash would finish it, so he was shocked when Kid Flash just sighed and clutched his stomach, saying, oh, I ate too much. Naruto remarked, I win, after smiling and swallowing what he was eating before eating what Kid Flash had put on his plate, with a melodic voice. Ugh, good, burp, job. The speed demon said, then turned to smile at Starfire, wriggling his eyebrow and saying, thanks for the dinner, Starfire. It was enjoyable. Someone would love having you as a wife. Naruto growled and arched an eyebrow at this, but he had to say, I agree. Starfire blushed at this and said, thank you. I'm happy you enjoy my cooking. Now I get to choose what we do next, and that is sparring, Naruto said, burping louder than Kid Flash. In about an hour. Terra simply smiled. Kid Flash remarked, somewhat nervously, but fortunately, we don't usually spar in my team. They were currently outside the tower where Terra was tested because he knew that fighting Superboy again would be a pain. Robin said from his vantage point, we don't either. Really? How do you expect to get stronger then? Naruto asked. Kid Flash remarked, well, but cooperation? That may be the case, but collaboration by itself won't make you stronger, Naruto muttered. Thanks to my former staff, I should be aware of it. Oh, and I would also like to know if you have a special someone in your life. Everyone was taken aback by the question, and Kid Flash thought about his squad before responding, yeah, I think I do. He said, good, because when you fight for your precious people, it when you truly become strong. This statement altered everyone's opinion of Naruto. Robin smiled, he had his pals and his crew. Raven pondered about it for a moment, then smiled and looked at her teammates. Beast Boy thought back on his days with the Doom Patrol, his old squad, and Naruto's words struck a chord with him in particular because he felt stronger during their tough times, and he could only smile now that he was with the Teen Titans. Then he thought of the blonde girl standing behind him, and he also considered her a precious person because he was still in love with her. Cyborg thought about the squad and his family as well. Terra gave Beast Boy a big smile because she still had feelings for him, and she would do whatever it took to make sure her brother was safe. Then came her troop. When Naruto noticed that Kid Flash was still hesitant to fight, he decided to have some fun. He smirked and said, now, let's fight. After taking a deep breath and making a few hand gestures, the enormous tornado that appeared through the speed demon loop exclaimed, wind style, vacuum tornado, that was not what he had expected. He sped to it and ran in the opposite direction to resist the assault. Whoa, said Beast Boy. Starfire's eyes were filled with stars. That was amazing. Kid Flash didn't have much chance of winning anyhow, but he realized he had to get serious or lose. Using his superior speed, he launched a head-on strike at the blonde, who Naruto easily dodged. The blonde then used the frog fist to block every blow that was directed at him. Naturally, the child had to try him from every angle after that, but the result was the same. This guy was able to shove around the blonde despite having quick reactions, damn it. Isn't that good? Naruto smiled as Kid Flash gasped, and Kid Flash snarled back at Naruto's challenge, is that all you got? He wanted to win, but he was tired and worried about being compared to his mentor. He tried to punch the blonde in a hurry, but she caught it. I wonder if the Flash is faster. Naruto smiled, this man was kind, but he was upset with him for flirting with Starfire and his sister, so he planned to fight him. He wanted some revenge. My turn, he smiled at the red-headed individual and remarked. When the blonde threw away the offending hand, he slammed his own into Kid Flash's stomach, knocking him out, and the others flinched a little too, before he suddenly disappeared in a flash of yellow, then reappeared behind the teenager and kicked him in the head, sending him sprawling across the floor, sweat trickling from his brow. He overdid it because he was used to fighting ninjas. Starfire was the first one there, and because of her friendly demeanor, she caused the most concern. Despite checking to make sure the nervous blonde was only knocked out and not hurt, she approached him and exclaimed, "That was overkill." "Yeah, I overdid it," Naruto grumbled, "but I thought he could take a speed attack." But he was already exhausted, so it wasn't necessary. "It was just a spar, it is not like I killed him," Naruto growled. "That's why we don't fight," Starfire shouted. "So that we don't harm pals." Still unfamiliar with the rules here, Naruto murmured, "Okay. It's all making me angry. I apologize. I'll be in town if you guys need me," he answered, taking a big breath, believing in his heart that his skills would partially satisfy her. "Express regret for me to them." Before anyone could say anything, he disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves. Robin shook his head. Despite the fact that Naruto might have been trying to win Starfire over, he believed he had done so the other day. Starfire was perplexed as to why her friend, on whom she had a crush, grew irate. Was he furious with her? Tara moaned. She understood his goals and that love was a difficult thing. Naruto groaned as he went back inside the mall, but this time he was by himself. He was dumb to become upset, especially because Starfire was merely concerned for her friend's welfare. Now that he could have upset her, he was a little afraid to go back. He would wait it out here. "Hey, you're that new Titan, Kaze no Kitsune," a voice behind him said. The blonde was drawn to a lady who was very fond of pink clothing, pink hair, and pink Converse. Of course, if he really knew her, he would know that she was blonde by nature, not pink. "Hi, Kitten, you can call me Kitten."